And a desperate paramedic racing to the scene of an urgent life and death emergency was forced to beg police to clear Just Stop Oil protesters. This was from Waterloo Bridge in London this morning after the eco-clowns staged a slow march, halting traffic in both directions. But the so-called climate activists got a taste of their own medicine when they were left angered by the police response to their antics. Megan, have you got the clip? Let's have a look at it.
Ain't compliance being used! They're bending his wrist!
Not when you're torturing me! Not when you're torturing me! So, ain't compliant, they're short, very short, immediate payment.
Lively stuff. Well, tonight I'm asking, are the police right to use physical force to halt Just Stop Oil? Let me know your thoughts. Mark at gbnews.com or tweet us at GBNews and do vote in the poll on Twitter. But to discuss this now, I'm delighted to welcome the former police sergeant and former police sergeant and current writer, Harry Tanji. And we'll catch up shortly with Just Stop Oil's Emma Brown. First of all, Harry Tanji, thank you so much for joining us. What do you make of the more robust approach from the police in the last day or two?
Well, hello, Mark. Yeah, they've basically been looking at the law that's been happening, stated cases, the way the courts are going. I believe they've made 219 arrests since the beginning of November. 150 charged now. So they're getting a feel of what is actually accepted by the courts. They can't be interested in what the whole thing is about. They've got to be impartial. And so you have to ask what the alternative is then. Do we just let non-compliant people go? Now, if you actually dragged someone away, you're more than likely going to cause an injury to the muscular or even bone, especially when elderly people are being involved maybe, and cause injury. Pain compliance has been around for many, many years. And when I was on public order unit, that's what was taught. And we used it very rarely. It was basically to get someone to let go of something when we were able to do so, when it was legally necessary and all other options had failed. So the alternative to this is to just let them go. And I think we've got to remember that they are going to be putting anyone who is having pain compliance put on them, and they've got an audience, will be putting a show up. I think we can be pretty sure about that.
Well, Harry Tanji, great to have your thoughts on that as a retired cop. Let's now welcome Just Stop Oil's Emma Brown. Emma, great to have you on the show as well. I've just received this email from Ian, Mark at gbnews.com. He said, considering the Just Stop Oil cretins were obstructing a paramedic trying to get an emergency with all of the blue lights flashing, I think the police were too gentle with the protester. Do you agree?
Well, it's really unfortunate that ambulance was caught up in that disruption. We know that what we do is disruptive. The protesters were on the other side of the road from the ambulance. And at that point, all of the people had already been in police custody and had been dragged into the central reservation. So we were not blocking the road as such. It was more the police that were blocking the road. And I think we've seen, the police have a responsibility in terms of public order. They shouldn't be bending back people's hands, and that's completely illogical. And they should also be responding in a manner which is obviously as least disruptive to other vehicles as possible. So I wanted to point out that the person in that video, I know him. He's called Alistair Glass. He's a NASA scientist who worked prominently on the James Webb telescope. So I would ask, why is a person like that in a position like this? Maybe there's a reason for that.
Well, he's a NASA scientist. He's obviously been chucked out of that organisation. I hope he tells us when the shuttle lands, because this is a guy that is obstructing a road in this country. You mentioned that it's unfortunate. I think that's a very strange word. We're talking about a medical emergency here. This is a paramedic that needs to treat someone. It's more than unfortunate. And none of this would have happened without Just Stop Oil.
There comes a time when it's not like we have the perfect solutions. Like, for ordinary people, there's a limited amount of things that you can do to make your voice heard. And walking down a road, I'm sorry, Harry, but that is one of the oldest means of protest that we have ever had in a democratic country. So it should be acceptable to walk down a road. And usually we do work with organizations to, we do try and get off the road if there is a blue light, and we've been doing these kind of protests for a very, very long time, and nobody has been hurt, and that is because we do try our very best. And in terms of those tactics working, though they do work, we've seen in the Netherlands that tactic of blocking I think it's the A12 for a month, and it's worked.
Okay, Harry,
politicians. That's something that they need to deal with the issue, because you can't arrest your way out of an environmental protest.
Okay, Emma. Harry Tanji, how far do you think the cops should go?
They stick to the usual rules, and that is tried and tested. And thank you, Emma, for your advice on how they should be dealing with these disruptive people. But whatever you think about it, the police have had many, many years' experience and expertise on it, and have developed these skills to cause as few injuries as possible in the circumstances. And we have to deal with non-compliant people, and sometimes it looks slightly untidy. And the best bit about British policing, which you don't get in many other countries, it doesn't matter if he's a NASA scientist or the man next door. It doesn't matter who they are. If they're considered to be breaking the law and obstructing the highway or causing a criminal offence, then he's dealt with in the same way, as appropriately, justified, proportionately, all those things. And that's how it seems to have been done.
All right.
Lots of shouting and screaming.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's entirely necessary.
Yeah, he was a NASA scientist.
No.
Now he's a space cadet.
His hand. I don't know
Emma.
if you've seen the video. So his hand was bent back. Like, I can only bend back my hand this far. His hand was bent back.
You should do yoga.
This far. That is pain compliance, and I think that it doesn't matter what job you do, nobody should be dealt with in that way. That person was being
then be compliant.
There is that the law has been changed about every 5 minutes with this new Home Secretary.
Doesn't hurt.
There is procedure. The procedure is that the police lift each person, one person per limb and one behind the head, and that is how you get somebody who's not compliant.
I used it for 30 years. I'm sorry, I used it for 30 years, Emma. 30 years. I was frontline.
For 30 years,
literally,
you were on the fatal investigation team and the armed response team. That is not about peaceful protesters.
I was armed response, and you attend incidents that aren't firearms incidents.
But did this look like an armed response incident? Do you think it's acceptable for the police to harm and to cause pain to citizens that are peaceful?
He wasn't harmed.
Emma, let Harry briefly. Harry, if you could answer.
I think, and that's it. I think the public should be. They should feel happy that
we are the public.
They're doing it in the most appropriate and justified properly. And just because the rest is putting back, I'm doing it now, and it's not really hurting, but it does get compliance. But if I shout and scream, it can look a lot worse. It can look a lot worse.
Okay.
The arm was bent back to here.
All right, listen.
Painful. You can't put your hand that far back, can you, Harry?
There you go. It's been
public.
Well,
okay, folks.
With the injuries,
time's up.
We are librarians. We are NASA scientists. We are street cleaners. We are
space cadets.
We are the public.
Okay,
Harry.
folks. Emma, listen. Emma, you've had your say. Yes or no, Emma? Is it acceptable if people die as a result of Just Stop Oil's actions?
I can't. That is just.
Yes or no?
You're not. Is it acceptable that millions of people are going to die from these oil licenses? Is it acceptable that business as usual is killing millions of people?
All right, folks.
We are walking down a road.
Emma, listen, always good to have you on the show. Thank you for your thoughts. Emma Brown from Just Stop Oil. Good on you for joining us. And also my thanks to Harry Tanji, former top police sergeant and now very successful writer. And I had no idea I was so bendy. Wait till Mrs. Dolan finds out. Now, who do you agree with? Are the police right to use physical force to remove Just Stop Oil? B says, yes, finally, they should have been doing that from the start instead of standing by and giving them cups of tea. Alex says if Just Stop Oil are obstructing the road, causing vandalism or trespassing, then of course the police should use force. Jim says, I don't agree with the way that Just Stop Oil go about their campaigning, but they're trying to highlight something important. There's no need to be heavy-handed with them. And your verdict is in. 94% agree that the police should use physical force.